Hello and welcome to Nutrition Drive for Healthy Diet Initiative NDDI official YouTube channel. My name is Udrona, Research Associate and Coordinator of the Learning and Expert Exchange Hub at NDDI. And today I'm excited to introduce you to our mission, our work, and what you can expect from our channel. At NDDI, our mission has two key facets. First, we are committed to developing data-driven, evidence-based solutions and recommendations to inform nutrition policies and actions that foster healthy diets and improve public health outcomes. Secondly, we are dedicated to strengthening the research competencies of emerging nutrition scientists in Africa. We envision an Africa where high-quality evidence is readily available and effectively utilized to tackle nutrition challenges. Founded with a commitment to evidence-based research and community engagement, NDDI has been at the forefront of nutrition advocacy and policy development. We collaborate with stakeholders across sectors to coordinate and implement high-level nutrition research programs and initiatives. Our work spans across research, education, and policy advocacy, ensuring that we address the multifaceted challenges of nutrition and health. This we achieve through our interdisciplinary research work groups like food environment, obesity and non-communicable diseases, pediatric nutrition, nutrition methods and technology, nutrition care process implementation, and lots more. And professional development programs just as our Young African Nutrition Scholars, the YANs, Learning and Expert Exchange Hub, Emerging Leaders Research Grant Awards, etc. Our base is in Nigeria, where we have a broad team of experts across the various geopolitical zones and in diverse areas of nutrition and development. We are also expanding to other African countries. Our YouTube channel is an extension of our commitment to knowledge sharing, capacity building, and community engagement. Here you will find a wealth of resources designed to empower researchers, nutritionists, and anyone interested in nutrition and public health. One of our flagship series is the Learning Hub. This webinar series is aimed at equipping researchers with essential tools to enhance their research competence. Whether you're looking to master statistical software like SPSS, NVivo, or learn nutrition-specific tools, our Learning Hub series has got you covered. We bring experts to guide you through practical hands-on sessions, ensuring that you not only understand the tools but also know how to apply them effectively in your work. Another exciting series we offer is Expert Exchange. This series highlights the work of nutritionists across different sectors through engaging interviews and discussions. You'll gain insights into their experiences, challenges, and successes. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn from the best in the field and be inspired by their journeys. Each episode is designed to provide you with valuable knowledge and practical advice that you can apply in your own professional practice. Aside from our Learning Hub series, our Expert Exchange series, you can expect to see other content which can include excerpts from speaking engagements, interview sessions, to highlight the work that our members do in NDDI and lots more. Rest assured that we are committed to providing you with value through our YouTube page. So expect to see top-notch content. We are excited to have you join our community. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Leave a comment, let us know what topics you would like us to cover in our webinar series for future videos. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Follow us on our social media platforms at NDDI Africa for more updates and join our mission to promote healthy diets and improve public health. Thank you for watching and we look forward to embarking on this journey with you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's so great to have you here. This is NDDI Africa's Learning Hub, and we're so grateful that you could join us today. While we wait for others, we would like to provide you with more information about NDDI Africa, what we do, and all. So I'm going to play the video again for those that are still joining us. If you know someone that should be here, kindly reach out to the person that the webinar started, and we trust that everyone here would have gain value for their time, because we really look forward to learning hands-on useful skills for us today as regards to graphical abstract development. So thank you very much. Please reach out to your friends, tell them the webinar started. I will play the video again just for you to have more information about NDDI Africa. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Nutrition Drive for Healthy Diet Initiative NDDI official YouTube channel. My name is Udrona, Research Associate and Coordinator of the Learning and Expert Exchange Hub at NDDI, and today I'm excited to introduce you to our mission, our work, and what you can expect from our channel. At NDDI, our mission has two key facets. First, we are committed to developing data-driven, evidence-based solutions and recommendations to inform nutrition policies and actions that foster healthy diets and improve public health outcomes. Secondly, we are dedicated to strengthening the research competencies of emerging nutrition scientists in Africa. We envision an Africa where high-quality evidence is readily available and effectively utilized to tackle nutrition challenges. Founded with a commitment to evidence-based research and community engagement, NDDI has been at the forefront of nutrition advocacy and policy development. We collaborate with stakeholders across sectors to coordinate and implement high-level nutrition research programs and initiatives. Our work spans across research, education, and policy advocacy, ensuring that we address the multifaceted challenges of nutrition and health. This we achieve through our interdisciplinary research work groups like food environment, obesity and non-communicable diseases, pediatric nutrition, nutrition methods and technology, nutrition care process implementation, and lots more. And professional development programs just as our Young African Nutrition Scholars, the YANs, Learning and Expert Exchange Hub, Emerging Leaders Research Grant Awards, etc. Our base is in Nigeria, where we have a broad team of experts across the various geopolitical zones and in diverse areas of nutrition and development. We are also expanding to other African countries. Our YouTube channel is an extension of our commitment to knowledge sharing, capacity building, and community engagement. Here you will find a wealth of resources designed to empower researchers, nutritionists, and anyone interested in nutrition and public health. One of our flagship series is the Learning Hub. This webinar series is aimed at equipping researchers with essential tools to enhance their research competence. Whether you're looking to master statistical software like SPSS, NVivo, or learn nutrition-specific tools, our Learning Hub series has got you covered. We bring experts to guide you through practical hands-on sessions, ensuring that you not only understand the tools, but also know how to apply them effectively in your work. Another exciting series we offer is Expert Exchange. This series highlights the work of nutritionists across different sectors through engaging interviews and discussions. You'll gain insights into their experiences, challenges, and successes. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn from the best in the field and be inspired by their journeys. Each episode is designed to provide you with valuable knowledge and practical advice that you can apply in your own professional practice. Aside from our Learning Hub series, our Expert Exchange series, you can expect to see other content which can include excerpts from speaking engagements, interview sessions, to highlight the work that our members do in NDDI and lots more. Rest assured that we are committed to providing you with value through our YouTube page, so expect to see top-notch content. We are excited to have you join our community. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Leave a comment, let us know what topics you would like us to cover in our webinar series for future videos. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Follow us on our social media platforms at NDDI Africa for more updates and join our mission to promote healthy diet and improve public health. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to embarking on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to Nutrition Drive for Healthy Diet Initiative NDDI official YouTube channel. My name is Udrona, Research Associate and Coordinator of the Learning and Expert Exchange Hub at NDDI, and today I'm excited to introduce you to our mission, our work, and what you can expect from our channel. At NDDI, our mission has two key facets. First, we are committed to developing data-driven, evidence-based solutions and recommendations to inform nutrition policies and actions that foster healthy diets and improve public health outcomes. Secondly, we are dedicated to strengthening the research competencies of emerging nutrition scientists in Africa. We envision an Africa where high-quality evidence is readily available and effectively utilized to tackle nutrition challenges. Founded with a commitment to evidence-based research and community engagement, NDDI has been at the forefront of nutrition advocacy and policy development. We collaborate with stakeholders across sectors to coordinate and implement high-level nutrition research programs and initiatives. Our work spans across research, education, and policy advocacy, ensuring that we address the multifaceted challenges of nutrition and health. This we achieve through our interdisciplinary research work groups like food environment, obesity and non-communicable diseases, pediatric nutrition, nutrition methods and technology, nutrition care process implementation, and lots more. And professional development programs just as our Young African Nutrition Scholars, the YANs, Learning and Expert Exchange Hub, Emerging Leaders Research Grant Award, etc. Our base is in Nigeria, where we have a broad team of experts across the various geopolitical zones and in diverse areas of nutrition and development. We are also expanding to other African countries. Our YouTube channel is an extension of our commitment to knowledge sharing, capacity building, and community engagement. Here you will find a wealth of resources designed to empower researchers, nutritionists, and anyone interested in nutrition and public health. One of our flagship series is the Learning Hub. This webinar series is aimed at equipping researchers with essential tools to enhance their research competence. Whether you're looking to master statistical software like SPSS, NVivo, or learn nutrition-specific tools, our Learning Hub series has got you covered. We bring experts to guide you through practical hands-on sessions, ensuring that you not only understand the tools but also know how to apply them effectively in your work. Another exciting series we offer is Expert Exchange. This series highlights the work of nutritionists across different sectors through engaging interviews and discussions. You'll gain insights into their experiences, challenges, and successes. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn from the best in the field and be inspired by their journeys. Each episode is designed to provide you with valuable knowledge and practical advice that you can apply in your own professional practice. Aside from our Learning Hub series, our Expert Exchange series, you can expect to see other content which can include excerpts from speaking engagements, interview sessions to highlight the work that our members do in NDDI, and lots more. Rest assured that we are committed to providing you with value through our YouTube page, so expect to see top-notch content. We are excited to have you join our community. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Leave a comment, let us know what topics you would like us to cover in our webinar series for future videos. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Follow us on our social media platforms at NDDI Africa for more updates and join our mission to promote healthy diet and improve public health. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to embarking on this journey with you.
Okay, good evening once again. Good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know where you're joining us from and what you do. It's also another opportunity for us to connect. So for those joining us, this is NDDI Africa's Learning Up webinar, and it's a 2-day webinar. So today is day 1 and it's going to end tomorrow. And today's webinar is focused on creating powerful graphical abstracts, with transforming nutrition research into visual stories. So it's more of a very practical webinar, and we have a brilliant Anne that will be facilitating the webinar session in person of Patrick Elliott. So if you know anyone that should be here, anyone you feel this skill would be useful for, kindly reach out to them. That the webinar started. And yes, the webinar started. Kindly engage in the chat box. Let us know your name. Let us know where you're joining us from. I would, for those that just tuned in, I would let you know more about NDDI Africa by playing the video for one last time. Then we would kickstart the webinar. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Nutrition Drive for Healthy Diet Initiative NDDI official YouTube channel. My name is Udrona, Research Associate and Coordinator of the Learning and Expert Exchange Hub at NDDI, and today I'm excited to introduce you to our mission, our work, and what you can expect from our channel. At NDDI, our mission has 2 key facets. First, we are committed to developing data-driven, evidence-based solutions and recommendations to inform nutrition policies and actions that foster healthy diets and improve public health outcomes. Secondly, we are dedicated to strengthening the research competencies of emerging nutrition scientists in Africa. We envision an Africa where high-quality evidence is readily available and effectively utilized to tackle nutrition challenges. Founded with a commitment to evidence-based research and community engagement, NDDI has been at the forefront of nutrition advocacy and policy development. We collaborate with stakeholders across sectors to coordinate and implement high-level nutrition research programs and initiatives. Our work spans across research, education, and policy advocacy, ensuring that we address the multifaceted challenges of nutrition and health. This we achieve through our interdisciplinary research work groups like food environment, obesity and non-communicable diseases, pediatric nutrition, nutrition methods and technology, nutrition care process implementation, and lots more. And professional development programs just as our Young African Nutrition Scholars, the YANs, Learning and Expert Exchange Hub, Emerging Leaders Research Grants Awards, etc. Our base is in Nigeria, where we have a broad team of experts across the various geopolitical zones and in diverse areas of nutrition and development. We are also expanding to other African countries. Our YouTube channel is an extension of our commitment to knowledge sharing, capacity building, and community engagement. Here you will find a wealth of resources designed to empower researchers, nutritionists, and anyone interested in nutrition and public health. One of our flagship series is the Learning Hub. This webinar series is aimed at equipping researchers with essential tools to enhance their research competence. Whether you're looking to master statistical software like SPSS, NVivo, or learn nutrition-specific tools, our Learning Hub series has got you covered. We bring experts to guide you through practical hands-on sessions, ensuring that you not only understand the tools, but also know how to apply them effectively in your work. Another exciting series we offer is Expert Exchange. This series highlights the work of nutritionists across different sectors through engaging interviews and discussions. You'll gain insights into their experiences, challenges, and successes. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn from the best in the field and be inspired by their journeys. Each episode is designed to provide you with valuable knowledge and practical advice that you can apply in your own professional practice. Aside from our Learning Hub series, our Expert Exchange series, you can expect to see other content which can include excerpts from speaking engagements, interview sessions to highlight the work that our members do in NDDI and lots more. Rest assured that we are committed to providing you with value through our YouTube page. So expect to see top-notch content. We are excited to have you join our community. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Leave a comment, let us know what topics you would like us to cover in our webinar series for future videos. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Follow us on our social media platforms at NDDI Africa for more updates and join our mission to promote healthy diet and improve public health. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to embarking on this journey with you.
Okay, good evening once more. Thank you everyone for joining in today. We appreciate your presence. Like I said before, this is the Learning Hub of NDDI Africa, the Learning Hub webinar. And today we'll be looking at graphical abstract development. Well, for the next 2 days, because it's a 2-day webinar, we'll be looking at development of graphical abstracts, transforming nutrition research into visual stories. And we have a very great Anne that will be taking us through this process today. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Anne Oluwapo. With NDDI Africa, I work as a research associate. And on behalf of NDDI Africa, would like to appreciate you once again for joining in. And we hope that you will find this webinar enlightening. So today we have Patrick Elliott, a PhD student from University College Dublin. But before I hand over to him, because he'll be the one taking us through today's webinar, I would like to do like a lot of some homework or some homekeeping. So for some housekeeping rather. So I know in the course of the webinar, we might have questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat box and know that at the end of the session, we will be taking questions and answers. I want us to pay attention, follow along. So if you have anything, questions, clarification, just drop it in the chat box. We would address it at the end of the session. Also, before I hand over to him, we would like to do more like a pre-test to see how far, like what we know about the topic of concern today. For those that don't know, it's creating powerful graphical abstracts, transforming nutrition research into visual stories. But before we go into the pre-test, I would like to read the bio of our speaker for today, in person of Patrick Elliott. So Patrick Elliott is an award-winning PhD researcher in human nutrition from University College Dublin, where his research has been focused on the development of behavioral science, informed personalized nutrition framework to promote sustainable healthy diets in university students. Patrick holds a master's degree in public health nutrition from University College Dublin and a bachelor's degree in sports science and health from Dublin City University. Patrick has conducted research on the impact of plant-based diets on cardiometabolic health, the determinants of sustainable healthy dietary behaviors, and the efficacy of personalized nutrition intervention that provides tailored behavioral support to improve dietary behaviors. In addition to his academic work, Patrick works as Health and Nutrition Science Communication Officer for Training 121, where he writes blog articles on a range of health and nutrition related topics. Patrick has also written for multiple other outlets on topics related to nutrition and has featured in traditional media such as Irish Independent, CG4, Breaking News, to name a few, and in social media campaigns, initiatives related to nutrition and health such as SciComm Collective, Safe Food, and others. Patrick also speaks publicly on topics relating to sports nutrition for adolescents and adults, healthy eating practices, plant-based diets, and science communication. So you see that we have a very wonderful hand to take us through today's topic, and we are very glad, Patrick, to have you here. So on behalf of NDDI Africa, I want to thank you for joining us, and we want to welcome you. So right now, I'm going to be handing over to Patrick to take us through today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Had I known that would be read out, I probably would have sent something a lot shorter. But anyway, yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to leading this webinar. We'll start with looking, or I'll present on a slide deck on some of the best practices here for creating graphical abstracts. And then after that, I'm going to try and do a bit of a demonstration on a software, so the software Canva. That's what I tend to use for graphical abstracts. So yeah, once I've finished the presentation, I'll try and do a bit of a kind of walkthrough on that software, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I'll try to share my screen now. Okay. People can see that? Okay.
Yes.
Yep, perfect. Okay. All right then. So yeah, as I said, we're going to talk through some of the best practices around graphical abstracts, some practical tips. Just to note, obviously I'm here speaking on this topic, so I have a bit of, I suppose, understanding of it, but I wouldn't call myself an expert in terms of creating graphical abstracts. I've created them, of course, I think I've improved over time, and I've spent a bit of time trying to make them better over time. But I think, there's definitely, while I have an interest in this sort of stuff, I think there's plenty of people who may be better or have more maybe creativity with this sort of stuff. But yeah, so just want to leave that as a little bit of a disclaimer. So what we're going to talk about in this webinar is, first of all, we're going to just define what we mean by graphical abstract. We'll talk a little bit about why they matter, so why they're important. Some kind of core elements of them. So yeah, basically the kind of main aspects you need to think about when you're creating them. There's 10 simple rules. So this comes from a paper, which I'll discuss. And these are more guidelines, let's say, than rules for designing graphical abstracts, but they are useful when you're working through with graphical abstracts to use these as a guide. So we'll go through them. We'll look at some common mistakes to avoid. Some examples of good graphical abstracts, and this is always subjective to an extent. So good and bad are probably not the best words, but we'll talk about some that might be more aligned with best practices and some that are maybe a little bit more difficult to follow and maybe not as aligned with best practices. We'll summarize things, and then I'll just leave you with a few resources. So first of all, what is a graphical abstract? So it is a single visual, and essentially it's a summary of a paper. Now, it doesn't always have to summarize every aspect of a paper. So bear that in mind. It is, it's impossible to summarize every aspect of a paper, but it does give a general overview. It's used by researchers to communicate their findings visually. So oftentimes journals are pushing for graphical abstracts more so. Not every journal has them as a requisite, but a lot of journals are moving that way. And when they're done well, they can make things simple. So simplify some complex findings. And that's the main goal, is to have something relatively simple to follow. Just to give an example, so this is one from a trial back in 2019. It's a good example, I think. It shows a picture quite quickly, so we can see there's two graphs here. There's an ultra processed diet, there's an unprocessed diet in this study, and you can see the main results here where over time in this study, the energy intake, so ad libitum intake, was higher on the ultra processed diet, and the body weight was higher. So those graphs give a bit of a, if you look at that, you might have an insight into what happened in the study. Of course, there's so much missing from it too. It doesn't talk about how many people were in the study. It doesn't have the study design exactly. So, this is probably not a perfect example, but it does give the main findings in this kind of summary, easy to understand figure. And in that sense, it is pretty good. And it also acts as a bit of a hook. So if someone sees that, they might be interested then to read the paper more so than if they just read the written abstract. So again, it's kind of like an advertisement for your study. So why do they matter then? So first of all, they help with discoverability and engagement. They can increase your alt metrics, which is something you can track from your paper in terms of not just how many citations you get, but how much people engage with it online. They can improve the retention of key findings. Again, if you have a graphic that's memorable, it's going to help, recall. If someone just sees it very quickly, they may remember that more so than if they read a sentence about a result. Obviously, for social media, it's very helpful. If you're ever sharing your own research or sharing other research on social media, they're very helpful tools, the graphical abstracts. And just to kind of, I suppose, make the point a little bit more, I'm just going to put two sentences here. So these are two sentences related to that previous graphical abstract I showed. So these are the two kind of main findings. Energy intake was greater during the ultra-processed diet, and participants gained about 1 kilo during the ultra-processed diet and lost about 1 kilo during the unprocessed diet. So those sentences make sense, of course. But again, when we look at the graphical abstract, we can see that information. We don't know the exact figures, so we don't know it was 508 calories per day more, let's say, for the energy intake, but we can see the picture. We can see the main findings much clearer, and I think it's more likely that it's going to stick in your head than just reading those sentences. So core elements of a graphical abstract. You don't want to overcrowd it, so you don't want to try and fit every little piece of the study into this graphic. So you want to center a message, and you want to keep it to a central message. So in that way, it's a minimalistic design at times when it's done well, I think. Main thing is it's clear for the reader or for the viewer. Yeah, so there's different types, and I'll show some examples as we go through. But clarity and minimalism is definitely a good starting point. Logical flow of information, so things either they're going left to right, top to bottom, etc. Having some sort of systematic way of showing the information. Using both visual icons as well as text, so it's not either or. I think there can be a balance between using both of these things. Consistency in your styling, consistent fonts, consistent font sizes for certain headings, all that sort of stuff is important. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there is a paper called 10 Simple Rules for Designing Graphical Abstracts. I'm going to go through these 10 rules and kind of go through them in a little bit more detail. This is just quite a helpful resource. It doesn't probably cover everything, but I think for 90% of what you're going to do in terms of creating a graphical abstract, these simple rules will help guide that process. So the 10 rules, first of which is to have that key message. I mentioned that already, but it's really, really important to just come up with that. It's likely to be one of your results, of course, in your study. If you're using original data, if it's a review, obviously you have results as well, but sometimes they're not as easily communicated at times than a quantitative result. Qualitative research as well can be a little bit not as easy to put on a chart. So you can get creative with how you can communicate your findings, but first of all is just have that key message. Second of all is to use pictures and pictograms. So if everything's text, it's just not going to be very visually appealing. Third of which is to use data and charts, if possible, as your key visual, so your centerpiece of the abstract. As I mentioned, this isn't always, possible if your data is qualitative, for example. You can't do a quantitative chart, but you can still put qualitative data as your kind of main visual. You just have to get creative with it. Fourth rule then is a layout. So yeah, I'll go through this when I get to that. But just kind of having the dimensions correct and all that sort of stuff, but I'll get to that later. Fifth then is your reading direction. So again, you just want a consistency with this. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think there's probably better ways and worse ways, but whatever way you choose, just having it consistent. Connecting things, so arrows and how you arrange, let's say, icons or pictures on the actual graphical abstract. There's kind of good ways to do that, maybe less good ways to do that. So we'll go through that as well. Seventh rule of text is just about, again, consistency, making sure text isn't too small, making sure the text is readable. So the type of font you use and all that sort of stuff is important to keep in mind. Colors as well. Of course, there's certain colors clash, particularly for people with, color blindness. So that's something to be aware of. For the ninth rule is just, I'll give an overview of some tools you can use, so different softwares and that sort of stuff. And then the 10th rule is feedback. So when you're doing this, ideally you are showing it to people and you're getting their input. Usually this would be your co-authors, but it could also be informal feedback through showing colleagues, maybe in the office, if you're working with people in an office, or people, just getting some sort of feedback, I think is useful. Again, because sometimes something can look very logical to us, but then when someone else looks at it, they don't really know what's going on. So, okay. First rule then, key message. As I mentioned, this is kind of usually related to your results, but of course those results are related to your main aim or your objective, or sometimes your hypothesis. So if you don't have this key message, it's very difficult to have a clear graphical abstract, because it once you have come up with the key message, it guides how you design the graphical abstract, and usually everything kind of leads to that, in terms of the layout and everything like that. A tip, I suppose, if you're trying to figure out what your key message is, sometimes it'll be very easy to know what your key message is. It'll be very intuitive. Other times, maybe not so much. Try to write down in a sentence or maybe two sentences the most important thing from your paper, let's say, or explain it to someone, and then maybe try to explain it shorter, and try and find the shorter sentence that keeps the kind of the most important element, and that can help you find your key message. So I'm going to show an example of a graphical abstract I did maybe a few years ago. Now it's definitely not the best graphical abstract, but I'll just walk you through it. So at the top here was the research question for this review. As I mentioned, I actually found it quite difficult to put review findings into a graphical abstract, especially because there were so many things we found that it was really difficult to find what was most important. But anyway, at the top here, I have the research question. Then in this kind of first box on the left-hand side, this may or may not be easy to follow. I'll explain it, and then you can let me know if I did a good or bad job. But basically, I was trying to understand what influences eating behaviors for healthy plant foods, kind of more sustainable foods. So that's these people, kind of what influences the choice of these foods, and there's a question mark. So to look at the literature, we kind of put that into a funnel, or looked at the literature. What came out of the funnel was what we perceived to be the most important factors, and we had a way of kind of doing that in the review, and that was this kind of pyramid shape. So then, of course, that was very small on the left-hand side, so I blew that up on the right-hand side, and you can see at the bottom, and as it goes up, there's more kind of priority factors, let's say, and we've given on the right-hand side there some text to complement that, saying examples of high priority factors identified. And then down towards the bottom of this graphical abstract, we have basically the conclusion, the key message. Again, this is something I did a few years ago. I think if I was to do this again, I may do it a little bit differently, but it starts with the research aim, tries to give an overview of what we did, showing key findings and then having a conclusion at the bottom. So it's not perfect, but it's probably serviceable. But anyway, yeah, just to underscore, key message is important. It helps to guide what you're going to do. Second rule, pictures and pictograms. So these are obviously key components. I'm not breaking any news here. Where possible, you want to have your visual elements in place of text. Not always, but as I mentioned earlier, and you'll be well aware of this, if everything's text, it just doesn't become very visually appealing. But text can be used to accompany these elements, and oftentimes it's necessary. So don't be afraid to use text. It's just try and be creative with it. Can you put this into a visual format? And if necessary, you can accompany that with text. Just to give an example here, this could be, a way that someone explains something on a graphical abstract. So population, adults age 18 to 30, the intervention was this, there was urine collection, let's say, lipid measurements. So given a bit of the methods, a very simple way just to make this a little bit more visually appealing is to, put some icons in instead of those first words. So it doesn't negate the need for the text, but in my opinion anyway, it makes it just a little bit more visually appealing. And also those icons and stuff are quite consistent in terms of styling and colors between each other, which is also important. But yeah, that's a very, very simple way to accompany text and make something a little bit more visually appealing. So where possible, try to add these pictograms, pictures. This graphic here comes from this paper that we're kind of summarizing. It's not just important to have these pictograms and icons, but to have the consistency. So in this panel here at the top, so A, there's a consistent styling here, consistent color scheme. So if these icons were all together on a particular graphical abstract, it definitely looks professional and sleek. At the bottom here on the B panel, we can see there's a number of icons and they're fine. They're nice icons, but they're all a little bit different from each other. They're different colors, different kind of styles. There's minimalist styles. There's more detailed, like the lab equipment on the left. So where possible, try to align the style so that you have a consistency. As with anything, consistency is important, but definitely when it comes to graphical abstract, just being conscious of that. So again, yeah, try to find something you like and then use that as a kind of basis for your other icons, and that will make it just a little bit more visually appealing. Third rule then, data and charts as your key visual. Yeah, sometimes you can't get your full message across with icons and pictograms. So that's where data or charts can be very useful. Simple charts are best. So yeah, there's all sorts of charts out there. Sometimes you might read a paper and you see a new type of chart that you never saw before. So ideally for a graphical abstract, you want to keep it to simple charts that people understand and have no issue understanding, let's say. So yeah, so where possible, trying to use these. Sometimes you're not going to be able, again, your data may not fit that type of chart. But just to give it an example, again, a figure from that paper of some simple charts that again are useful, and you can see they're quite visually appealing and they show your message. And they've used color here as well to kind of highlight something. But it just, yeah, they get the message across quite easily. But again, not always possible. Sometimes also when you have, I don't know, certain charts that mightn't be as easily understood. So let's say you couldn't use a bar chart, you couldn't use a pie chart, but you do want to include some sort of chart. You can use a different type of icon just to complement that. So this is another graphical abstract I've done a few years ago. The three charts here, the white charts, so they're forest plots. So they're a little bit difficult to interpret if you haven't come across them before. And also the font's a little bit small on this actually. But what I did here was there's a spectrum below it. So also because some of these biomarkers in this particular study, someone may not be fully aware of what they are or what it means for these kind of point estimates to be either side of the center line in the forest plots. So adding this spectrum at the bottom, which kind of shows that, okay, the results on the right here are a little bit more positive for cardiovascular health, whereas the ones on the left are a little bit less positive for cardiovascular health, helps to complement those forest plots. So that's again an example. It's not perfect example, but yeah, it just gives an insight into when you can kind of complement this sort of stuff. Fourth and fifth rule. So layout. It's your organization on the page. It's how you put things down. There's usually instructions for certain things when it comes to layout. I've given an example here from a journal I've published in previously. They'll give an example or dimensions for your design. So just be sure to read journal instructions. Now, sometimes they won't give this sort of detail, and that's fine. But yeah, just have a look. Reading direction. Suppose usually left to right is good. It's not the only way to do it. Top down is okay. There's other ways to do it as well. So here's a few different possibilities. There's linear methods, zigzag methods, forking here, nested, which to me looks like linear, circular and parallel. But yeah, so there's no one way to do this, and that's why I think there's no main rules. Okay, it has to be left to right. It has to be linear. There's definitely space for creativity here, but just keeping in mind that you don't want something, let's say, going to the right top corner, and then it's going to the bottom right, and then back to the right top, and then to the left top. I mean, no one's going to understand that at all. So it has to have some sort of a consistent pattern to it. Connecting things, connecting the elements. So arrows are important for this. They help with that storyline narrative, because we know an arrow indicates movement in time, so we're kind of following it. There's different types of arrows, so which, to be honest, is very obvious. We know that, but when I read this paper, they give some insights into what different types of arrows mean and stuff. And to be honest with you, I never read that before and knew that, okay, if the arrowhead's like this, it means that or whatever. So I wouldn't worry too much about this, but just again, having consistency with how you use arrows and things to connect elements within your graphical abstract is important. So arrowheads obviously signal movement, or if an arrow is going up, it's increasing something, down, decreasing, etc. Rounded tips. So here's something again that I suppose it makes sense when you think about it, but I suppose when I read this, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I didn't know that explicitly. But they're often used for labels. So labeling things, you might have the line and the little circle, rounded tip. So basically, main thing here is just to be systematic and consistent with how you use these different arrows and communicate it, to make sure that it's easy for people to follow. So again, in this particular paper, there's some arrow types here. The kind of bold arrow with the arrowhead is time point movement, process. With the kind of broken line, they have here as a movement, but maybe more uncertain. Label with the kind of rounded tip, and then this one inhibit is like a kind of like a vertical line at the end of the arrow, which can also, like timelines and stuff, it can like be a definite point where the timeline stops or whatever. But again, consistency here is important. Make sure that you're not using multiple types of arrows for the same purpose. That's the main thing to take away from this one. Seventh rule for text. So yeah, trying to seamlessly integrate text with visuals is the goal. Use keywords and phrases where you can. Again, this is just so a broad audience can also, for example, you might be doing work on, I don't know, some element of nutrition, let's say cardiovascular disease, and then someone else doesn't work in that area of nutrition, but these keywords and stuff can still give them an insight into what you're doing. They don't have to be an expert in that sense. Text obviously can be used where icons don't exist. Sometimes you can't find an icon for what you want, so that's where text comes in. Avoid jargon, again, keeping it simple. Color can be used as well to distinguish keywords, just to make it a little bit different. Underlining can work. You can make them bold. You can italicize them as well, but they're also often used for specific purposes. So scientific names, Latin names, statistical terms, like a p-value sometimes is italicized, things like that. Again, consistency here. If you don't italicize something that should be, it's fine. Just keep it consistent. Again, here, just kind of showing what I showed earlier, how you can kind of integrate text with visuals, keeping a consistent pattern, consistent font sizes, consistent font styles, all that sort of stuff. It just kind of helps. And even here, you can see for the blood lipids here in the right bottom corner, I couldn't find like something that gave the information of lipids very well. So I just did a yellow circle and put lipids on it. Maybe not perfect, but gets the message across. But yeah, just trying your best to make it visually appealing, but again, systematic, pairing your icons with your text where possible. Colors. Obviously, these are going to make your graphical abstract more engaging. They can be helpful for contrasting things or for looking at diverging data. So for example, if like I actually on one of the previous slides where I had one of my previous graphical abstracts with the spectrum, it went from red to green. Now, be careful with red and green because it's actually not the best for people with color blindness, but I didn't really think of that back in 2023. But there was a divergence there. So as you went further on one spectrum, you're towards a red color, which was to signify less healthy, and green obviously towards more healthy. Also sequential data. So if you're kind of looking at maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can go from very bright color to a very dark color or whatever. Consistency, again, I feel like I've said this on every slide, but it's very important. Accessibility. So this is where color blindness and things like that are important to consider. I have some tools on the resources page. So I'll talk about that later. But yeah, just to kind of check your visuals or your icons or your charts to make sure they're accessible for color blindness. You should avoid it as your sole channel for information color, because again, if someone only sees in black and white, they need to have some sort of way to see differences between groups or differences between data points. So that's where sometimes shading can work and different elements instead of just color. And then again, here's just a few little aspects of color that can be helpful. So you can label something with color to highlight something. You can use it for diverging data, sequential data, or for differences between particular things. And then if you work with animals or anything like that, or if you have an actual real photograph, of course, the natural colors from that can be helpful or can be useful, instead of black and white. So yeah, these are all ways color can be used in your graphical abstracts. Tools. So you could make graphical abstracts on PowerPoint or very simple tools, no problem. PowerPoint, as I mentioned, it's simple, it's easy to use. The only thing is there's not many icons on it. It's a little bit less user-friendly than other tools, at least in my opinion. It's free, obviously, with Microsoft Office. If you have Microsoft Office, sometimes your university or institution will have it. So yeah, it can be an option for sure. Canva is something I use. So I have the paid version, but the free version is pretty good. This is pretty simple, easy to use for graphics. And yeah, there's a huge library of icons, so it's very useful in that sense. It's €110. Not sure what it is in different currencies, but that's it for a year for the pro version. But again, the free version is pretty good, so you can do most stuff with the free version. There's BioRender is like this one's very good for if you work with, let's say, in vitro data, basic science, a lot of mechanistic work, working with cells, anything like that. BioRender is really good because it has so many icons for that sort of application, and it would have a lot more than you would have on Canva, for example, for that sort of specific science stuff. So I don't work in that area, so most of my work is with humans and kind of data driven or whatever. So I wouldn't necessarily need all those type of icons. But if you are someone who works in that field, I think that could definitely be something to look at. I'm not sure how good the free version is for this, but there is a paid version as well that's quite expensive. There's other things. There's Inkspace, which is another one. Again, I haven't actually used this one. There's Adobe Illustrator. Again, these ones are kind of more advanced. This one's a really advanced one, probably If you're getting to expert level, maybe this is a good one, but again, not necessary. There's no free version for this one, so, and as you can see, it's pretty expensive, although there is a discount for students or for teachers, so that's something to bear in mind as well. Okay, rule 10, very simple, is just feedback. So yeah, you want to just, you want to create something, show it to someone, maybe show it to someone close to you, get a quick kind of opinion, maybe make a few changes, then maybe show it to co-authors, get their thoughts. Obviously, sometimes it depends on your co-authors. You know, if you're very busy professors and that sort of stuff, they might be giving any feedback on this, but try your best to get some feedback. It's always worth stress testing it a little bit. So just to give an example, again, from this paper, in the top left corner of this graphic, is the first sketch these people did of this particular graphical abstract they were working on. So they're kind of sketching out the design. The one on the right here, so that's labeled B, that's their first go in BioRender, so in that software I mentioned, where they're looking at this particular process. And then at the bottom here, C is their final version. So yeah, you can see how they've went from that basic sketch to a first go, which looks pretty good to me on the top right, and then to where they finished off. So yeah, I can't speak to what they're actually talking about here. I haven't a clue, but it definitely is visually appealing, and it shows just that kind of process. So definitely try to get feedback if you can. Okay, common mistakes to avoid. Overcrowding. So I'll probably, I think I'll show an example of one that's overcrowded in a few minutes, and that just makes things a little bit difficult to follow. So again, minimalism where possible is encouraged. If it's unclear or ambiguous, again, this is where your key message is important, because you want someone to take away the main information that you're trying to impart upon looking at it for a few seconds. Because again, someone's going to look at this probably, and they're not going to spend time really, digging into it or spending minutes on it. So I know you'll spend a long time yourself, and you might think it's very easy to follow, but someone will look at it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and they need to get that kind of key message. So that's important. Clashing colors palettes are not advised, definitely if they're not colorblind friendly, so be wary of that. Using jargon or unexplained symbols, again, not great. Sometimes I've seen, and I will show some examples of good, or at least pretty good graphical abstracts that have things that aren't fully explained. So yeah, you want to avoid that if possible. Some journals allow you to have a legend or a legend, I guess, or a description, footnotes, where you can put in, let's say, abbreviations for words and things like that. But other ones don't. So again, just be careful with that, and try your best to not have anything that's either abbreviated or that is unexplained on your graphical abstract. Small font sizes as well. So recommended to not use less than 18. Again, it depends on the dimensions, but yeah, I think most journals, the dimensions wise, 18 is relatively readable. But again, just be careful with that, and check with journal instructions. Hard to read font styles, so try and use the sans serif font. So some examples here: Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, some other ones. These are just a little bit easier to read for people with, let's say, difficulties in reading as well. So want to make things as readable and as interpretable as possible for people. Inconsistent style, icons, color, everything. Inconsistency is the worst. Font sizes, you don't want one title bigger than the other when it's the same style. So just be careful with that. This is an interesting one. So obviously I've been talking about the importance of graphical abstracts, but it's also a mistake to think that they're sufficient to explain the key message of your paper, even though if you want them to be. They're not necessarily going to be able to give every detail. They'll give a main message, but they're not going to give all the nuances. So that's fine. You have to live with that. If someone is really interested, they're going to go into your paper and they're going to find out those details. So yeah, try to make them so that they're interesting. They give a very clear overview of what you're trying to explain, but they're never going to be able to fully explain everything. And actually, there was a study that looked at different ways of interpreting or viewing abstracts. So written abstracts, video abstracts, graphical abstracts, and also plain language summaries. And they found in this study anyway that the video abstracts and plain language summaries are more effective than just the graphical abstract or the published written abstract. It makes sense. I mean, if you have a video, you've more time to really explain and walk through something. And plain language summaries as well. Like if you write very basically, that's probably going to be a good way to get the message across. But again, journals don't usually ask for them. Graphical abstracts are getting more and more recognition by journals. And again, they're a very quick visual, so they can transmit the information much more quickly. And they're great for social media and great for even if you're giving a presentation as well. And there are more mistakes, I'm sure, but these are just some kind of common ones that are definitely best avoided. Okay, so I'm going to show a few good examples. Again, as I mentioned at the start of this talk, this is subjective on my part. So when I say good, maybe I mean better aligned with some of those rules. Yeah. Okay, so this one here is from an editorial from 2025. The editorial here was looking at, or was making the case that these two biomarkers here on the left, Lp(a) and ApoB, were to be prioritized for measuring cardiovascular risk and other traditional measures on the right-hand side. So that was the extent of the editorial. That was the key message. And here we can see a very, very, in my opinion, a very easy way to digest that information in a quick graphic. So this weighing scales, these two on the left are more important, let's say, for measuring risk than these on the right. So personally, very simple. This is a really, really simple graphical abstract. It probably took about 3 minutes to make it, which again means, you know, minimalism is important. You don't need to spend hours on these necessarily. Probably will end up spending hours on them, but in this case, really, really simple one. So I like that. Some other ones. So this one here from 2015. So this is actually going back a long time. This is not a perfect one by any means, but it does give it gives an insight into what's happening here. So we can see on the left, they measured personal features on 800 people. So they're showing the measured microbiome, blood test questionnaires, anthropometrics, food diary. This all fed into a predictor algorithm. And then they could predict glycemic responses from this information. And at the bottom here, this can design personalized diet to lower glycemic responses. So it's not a perfect one. I think there's definitely a lot of things that could be improved with this one, but it does, like I just read that there in a few seconds, and it's given me an insight into what they looked at. And again, if I want the details, I can go to the paper and actually get those details. Yeah, this is 2015, so it's over 10 years old, this one. The Cell journals they're kind of one of the first ones to have graphical abstracts as something necessary. So yeah, they were doing it before other people. On the right here is another example from the BMJ, the British Medical Journal. This one's definitely more busy, so it has more information on it than this one on the left. Again, not perfect, but I do like some of the boxes and how they have the headings. So for example, we've summary of the findings, study design, data sources, outcomes, and their nice graphics. I probably would personally move the summary to the bottom because I think it just flows a little bit better in terms of a story than having it as the first box, but that's a personal thing. So there's definitely things to improve here, but again, I do think it gives a nice clear graphic here of the main outcomes, which is probability of survival and time to nursing home admissions. So very quickly, we can see what the main message of this paper was. Another good example then, this is from the journal Allergy. So this is actually, yeah, this is not a nutrition example, but it's a good example. I like how they've you know, they have a good flow here, but I like how they've different boxes and they've labeled what they're doing here. So you can really easily follow this left to right and then bottom. Again, there's nice pie charts, bar graphs here. You can see as well that like on the top here, we have a pie chart with percentages, but then we have this EASI score. They don't actually have any units on it. And that can be okay too. So they're just showing that this one here, systemic agents and phototherapy, the bottom bar, is higher than the other two. So personally, I probably always try to include units, but it's still the message they're trying to say is there's more of that treatment than the other treatments throughout COVID-19. And then at the bottom here, again, they're showing that people with continued therapy, so with this kind of red part of the pie chart, they had a bigger drop in this EASI score than the people who had interrupted therapy. And then they're showing here from the pie chart that 13.7% with the interrupted therapy, they actually give the reasons for the interruption here with a bar chart on the right hand side. So I thought that was quite nice how they've linked those two charts. Again, maybe they're using EASI here without explaining what that is. So what is EASI? So maybe that's something they could have improved upon. Also, AD patients. So is that Alzheimer's disease? Is it something else? That's not explained. So yeah, definitely some things that could be improved, but I really like this one. And I've actually used this one as not this one, but kind of as, I suppose, a template for a graphical abstract I did recently, which I'm going to show you now. So this is one I created for a paper that was just accepted actually for publication this week. So you can see, I'll just go back, you can see how I've kind of robbed their aesthetic a little bit. But I just liked their flow. So I tried to create something similar here. And again, I'm just trying to give in the left top corner a little bit of information about the population, a little bit on the study design. Not trying to overwhelm with text here. I'm trying to balance text with the pictograms. And then the main results here at the bottom, I'm using pie charts for some count data. So again, very easy to see what that is. And then on the right here now, it probably looks a little bit small here, but there is this box plots on the right. Now I created those box plots in OR, so not on Canva, but you can also create bar charts on Canva. I've had different versions of that particular chart, so some were a little bit easier to see, but just to give an insight again into how you can structure these things, given your main message, let's say. Okay, some less good examples. This is a paper from 2025, published in Nutrition Research. Again, I don't remember what this was about because I can't actually look at this and figure out what it's about. So on the left-hand side, they're saying basically an increased food intake, increased ghrelin, which is a hormone, increases food intake. But again, I've already got kind of confused here because the ghrelin is here, and then they have the arrow from right to left, which is a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't fit with the flow of the rest of the diagram. The rest of it is left to right. So that's just making me a little bit confused. We can see they're saying that increased food intake, increased adiposity, which I guess increases these other hormones. And then through genetic analysis, I'm not quite sure what they're looking at here. Some genes are associated with different conditions. But again, I'm not sure how that connects with the first part. And then down the bottom here, again, I'm not quite sure what they're trying to show. There seems to be dietary guidelines on the left. And then perhaps how genes impact on nutrient intakes. So again, the fact that I'm kind of, I suppose, finding it difficult here is because it is difficult to follow. And this is where consistency and having maybe more text here even would be helpful than less text and just explain what each part of this graphical abstract is trying to communicate. Another example from 2024. Yeah, I don't entirely know what this one is getting at because again, there's an inconsistency in terms of how this flows. It's not very logical to me. I'm not sure what this unsustainable production of meat, how that links on the left-hand side, let's say, with the other parts, because there's no linking arrows from the kind of left three images to the other images. So there's a collection of information here, and yeah, I'm sure there's good information to be transmitted here, but it's not very successfully done so, in my opinion. And I'm not quite sure. At the bottom here, we see an icon for consumer preference, and I'm not sure how that relates to the rest of the messages and images. Maybe you guys can figure it out a little bit better, but for me, I find it a little bit difficult. Another example, and this is from a paper I published a few years ago. So I can't give out about other people's work if I don't give out about my own work. So this is a review that we did a long time ago. And yeah, basically it was looking at plant-based diets defined as vegetarian or vegan diets, and it was looking at how they associated with cardiovascular markers in observational studies, and then also looking at randomized controlled trials, where there was a comparison with non-vegetarian diets and different types of diets. But none of that information you'll be able to figure out from this graphical abstract. So it's not perfect at all. It does give a key message. So there is this kind of often decrease these markers, which may lead to a decreased risk of atherosclerosis. But it's very, very difficult to know what is this a randomized controlled trial? Is it a review? There's just so much detail lacking here. And also the icons are not great. They don't really represent the dietary patterns. Even the human kind of icon here with the heart just seems a little bit random. And then the last icon, which is the artery here, it was supposed to indicate there's no plaque in the artery, so it's lower risk, let's say, atherosclerosis. But again, I don't think it's very clear. So anyway, that's one that is not so good. Just to summarize then, so a good graphical abstract can enhance engagement with your research. Core elements of a good graphical abstract include your key message, being consistent with your style, colors, everything that you use. Heavy use of visual elements, using text where appropriate to supplement those visual elements. Having an intuitive logical flow. So again, thinking back towards some of those better graphical abstracts, they're easy to follow relative to the other ones. Simple charts if possible. In terms of tools, Canva's pretty good. I use it for everything. Again, if you're more in the kind of very mechanistic work or cellular work, BioRender might be something to have a look at, because I think you probably won't have a lot of those sort of icons in Canva or in PowerPoint or any other programs. Seek out feedback. So as I mentioned, informal feedback, formal feedback, it's all important. Follow journal guidelines. So again, they won't always have guidelines, but there's sizing guidelines, image types, DPI, which is dot per inch of your image, which you can change. You can Google DPI, and you can input an image into a tool and it'll give you the proper DPI. So that's an easy one to do. And also just have fun with it, get creative. So again, you've worked hard on your research, so you don't have to spend weeks on your graphical abstract, but take a bit of time, have a bit of fun with it, get creative with it, because again, it's a single summary of something that probably took you a year or longer. So it deserves a little bit of time and a bit of creativity to make sure that it's good. Some other resources then. There's a simulator here, a color blindness simulator. So if you upload an image of your graph or whatever it is, it can tell you whether it's colorblind safe. There's also this tool here where you can put in your colors, so hex codes. So every color will have a hex code, which you can see on Canva and different stuff. And yeah, that will give you a way to see if it's colorblind accessible as well. If you use OR for statistical analysis or visualization, there's some packages on OR, these ones here, that are colorblind safe. This paper here is the one that I've kind of summarized a little bit for this talk. There's also another very short kind of paper here, or perspective, that just talks about softwares, different types of softwares. BioRender have this page for design tips for graphical abstracts, as well as the journal Allergy. So one of those examples I pulled was from this web page. So there's other examples there of good graphical abstracts, or kind of useful ones to emulate. Thanks very much, and maybe if there's questions now, I can ask, or I can answer some, if that works, or we can go into the next part. It's up to whatever you want.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick, for that wonderful presentation. It was detailed. I'm sure we had lots to take in, and I'm sure the others agree with me. You can see with the emojis flying all around. Thank you for doing justice to the job. And
No worries.
so right now, like I said, we'll be taking questions and answers. So if you have questions, Patrick is ready to take your questions. Kindly drop it in the chat box and we'll read it out to him and he would be able to answer your questions. So I think on the slide, I think this is your like the QR code is for your social media handle, like for people to connect with you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay, because I noticed someone asked a question about how to connect with him. So you can, from the screen, you can just scan the QR code and it will link you appropriately to how to connect with him. So questions, questions, questions. We're open now. There's a lot. Yeah, the 10 rules, taking it in.
yeah,
Today was more like giving us knowledge on like the basic principles and how to go about it. Tomorrow we'll dive deeper into like practical sessions. So we'll go into groups where we can actually develop a graphical abstract. That's the plan. So that's another way to encourage us to come in tomorrow. But for today, for now, we are open to taking questions. So please drop your questions in the chat box and I would gladly read it out for Patrick to answer. Yeah, there are lots of thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. So I'm sure everyone enjoyed like the presentation. It was detailed like for me, and I'm sure like lots of people agree with it based on the comments that was saying. So waiting for questions. Anybody with questions? Okay, let me just scroll through. I'm trying to scroll through the chat now to see. I hope I don't miss anyone. Okay. Okay, while I keep scrolling, I think I would ask for a beginner, for someone that is just starting or just want to learn how to like, I want to develop my first graphical abstract. You've listed out a lot of tools, some are free and all of that. I know you stressed on Canva and you also talked about PowerPoint, which is really easy. For someone that is really keen on learning, which would you advise to start with? Which would you advise to concentrate more or focus more on?
yeah.
That would be my question.
I think personally, Canva is better. Even the free version is. It's a lot more user friendly. Um, yeah,
Okay.
even like spacing things and stuff like that, it will give a lot more guides, like nudges to where things go, that where it's equal. So one thing is not higher. And like PowerPoint does that to an extent, but it definitely doesn't to the same extent. So yeah, it's in my opinion, it's much more user friendly. Even like when I do slides, I would usually do them like for this, for example, on Canva, and then if I present it in PowerPoint, I just download it as a PowerPoint file. And
Okay.
sometimes the format is a tiny bit different, so you might have to move things a little bit, but it's pretty much the same. Because again, icons wise and stuff, there's just a lot more on Canva. So I just found myself at times, um, like because I used PowerPoint for years on even Google Slides or whatever, but I would find myself limited and just
Okay.
yeah, I don't see the benefit when the free version of Canva is already much better in my opinion. Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
no
So
worries.
Canva for more options, for more tools, it gives us more like freedom to express better compared to the other ones. Okay, thank you very much. I think I can see a question here. It says, sorry, I'll just read it out. It says, thank you, sir. My question is, don't we have AI tools that can generate graphical abstracts?
We do, yeah. Yeah, I'd be very careful. I mean, I definitely think, yeah, there's definitely a role to play for AI. But yeah, I mean, you can play around with it for sure, but I'd be careful with it in a number of ways. First way actually would just be your data and stuff. Depending on the sensitivity of what you're putting into it, just be careful with that. If it's, yeah, I don't know, if it's not published yet and stuff, you don't know. Sometimes these algorithms use your data to give other people answers and stuff like that. But in terms of the design itself, yeah, it's I've used AI like images and different things before for other stuff. Maybe it's probably always getting better. So I think when I was using it, sometimes it's hard to get what you want at times from it. So you're giving a prompt, but it can only give you so much because because you're not fully telling it exactly every aspect, or maybe you say one thing and you give a further prompt and it's slightly changed. Yeah, I think it's something to play around with, but personally, I would feel a little bit, I don't know. I prefer to have the ownership over it, to be able to stand over it, especially if you know your data better than anyone. So, um, you know how to visualize it. So I think that even if the AI simplifies it in terms of time and stuff like that, sometimes it can put you into a way of thinking. And this is also the same for, writing. It gives you something that might be pretty good, but maybe it's not the best way to visualize your data or to even write about your results. So I would use it as a tool, as a springboard, or as a something to bounce ideas off. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it does create it much better than you ever can. But that's something to figure out. But I think there's good there's it's a good learning curve to even just try and think of how you're gonna put something together. And I think it's good for our brains to spend a bit of time, because when someone's talking to you then about your paper, if you're presenting at a conference, if you put time into developing your key message and trying to understand how to create a graphical abstract that really easily gives that information across, then you're actually learning at the same time. So someone asks you a question about your data, you're probably a little bit better able to answer it in a kind of more clear, concise fashion. Sometimes I think, and I do use AI definitely for a lot of things, but it does outsource that learning a little bit, and I don't think that's beneficial long term. In saying that, I do use it. I use it for coding in particular, when I'm using like OR, for example. So yeah, use it as a tool and see how you think, or yeah, what you think is best. Also, I think some of these like softwares now have inbuilt AI. So if
Or
you
yeah.
couldn't find an icon, let's say that accurately reflects what you're trying, maybe you could ask the AI little inbuilt function kind of generate what you're looking for. So that could also be an option, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick. So if I can like reiterate what you said, basically, going through the process of developing, you get to sort of like an ownership of what you've done, and like it makes you think through it, which is
Mhm.
good. And there's also the part of privacy, sensitivity of the data or what you're putting in into AI, which we need to like pay keen attention to, especially when what you're putting in there has not yet been published. So you want to think of that. But that being said, is it okay and safe to say, oh, you could use the AI as like it's not the sole thing, like an assistant or like to support you? Like you gave examples about generating pictures, or icons that can be useful.
Definitely, yeah. It's like with writing. I feel like sometimes if I'm writing something, I'm not quite sure if it sounds understandable. I might put it into one of the AI large language models. I might get something back that I kind of, yeah, it might make it more simplified, but then I may use a bit of that and a bit of what I previously wrote and put it together into something I think is actually better than what it gave me. So it's a tool to be used, definitely, and it can help, but I would not rely on it 100%
On
for
it
for
only.
yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for that. I hope
no problem.
the person that asked the question, I hope we've done justice to it. So I have another question here. It says, does this require knowledge of data analytics in that aspect you mentioned about visualization for one who do not really know much about dashboard creation? So I think this person is basically asking, do we need the knowledge of data analytics, especially when it comes to visualization, for someone that doesn't know anything about dashboard creation?
Mhm.
I don't know if the question is clear.
Uh, the way I interpret the question, so if you have data to share, um, do you need an expertise, let's say, in how best to visualize it? I think you do to an extent. some data can't be represented very well with certain graphs, for example, or it would do better with other graphs. So yeah, you do need a little bit of that information or that knowledge. But I think as a researcher, if you are at the stage where you're creating a graphical abstract, you've already done data analysis on your data. You know, it shouldn't be too much of a jump to then try and put it into some sort of a visualization. For obviously numerical data, continuous data, you know, bar charts can work, box plots can work. There's many ways to show that type of data. For percentage data, so you know, counts. Pie charts are good. Yeah, there's different, but I think that's something you can also Google, and you can kind of, even with AI as well, you can kind of ask what's the best way to visualize this type of data, and that can be helpful sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So having like the basic principle on how best to present a certain like type of data is required. And I know you mentioned some when you were talking about colors, layouts. You mentioned some key principles that we should bear in mind. So I hope that question has been answered for whoever asked the question. I think we also have series of questions asking if the slides will be shared. No, the slides will not be shared, but on our YouTube page, you can go back and watch the webinar so you can have access to every information. I think that makes it even more like good, because you can listen again, absorb the information again, just instead of just having the slide. So you can have access to the slide through our YouTube page. You could rewatch it if something is not clear, if something is confusing. Kindly go to our YouTube page, engage with it. And if you have further questions, you can come with your questions tomorrow, or you could connect with Patrick. You can link up with him by scanning the QR code on the screen. So I hope that has been answered. I think we have another question here. It says, I want to know when and where graphical abstract can be used in place of only text abstract. So basically, the person is asking, oh, when do I have to, where does graphical abstract come into place instead of just plain text abstract?
Yeah, I think, yeah, so they traditionally were not a thing, obviously. It's really the last maybe 10, 15 years.
Okay.
It's some journals do require it, so you can't really get around that fact. So they're just a supplementary way of giving an overview of the study. They don't replace the written abstract, definitely don't replace it. And that's why I think, you know, earlier when I was mentioning that they are not sufficient to explain your study. They're definitely not, like your written abstract will always be able to give more information, but they're another tool to enhance discoverability, definitely for online communication, posting on social media. Also, if you are, again, presenting at a conference, and if you are trying to give an overview of a study you did, having a one slide overview in the form of a graphical abstract is really helpful. Not essential, but it's helpful. And again, sometimes journals don't require them, so you don't have to do it. I would always encourage people to do it, and even if a journal doesn't require it, I'll still create one. Just because I think, again, for all those reasons I mentioned, it's a useful way to share your research with others.
Okay, so I'll take one last, and I think it's a writer to this one. Is it all journals that accept graphical abstract? Someone is asking here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if any don't accept them.
Okay.
I haven't come across one that doesn't at this point, but they don't all require them. Definitely not. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Patrick. I know you mentioned that we'll be having a demo.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask, okay, so we're going to stop the question and answer it here, and I would hand over to you back for us to have a demo. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. We'll see how this goes. Okay. So basically, I'm going to just I'm going to show you Canva. Again, I'm not sponsored by Canva, so I'm not I don't make money from this. It's just something I think is useful. So here you can see, hopefully you can see that. If you can just confirm, you can see my screen, the Canva.
Yes, I can see your screen. Kindly give a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, yeah, so here is that graphical abstract I showed as an example, the last one I've done. So yeah, I have a blank page here. I'll just kind of show maybe some elements of Canva in terms of user or using it. At the top here, you have your homepage. So I'll just go into that very quickly, where you have many designs. If you want to start a new design, you can filter here from all these different types. It says presentations, social media posts, videos, all sorts of stuff, documents. So it's more than just graphical abstracts, of course, you can use this for. I'll go back into the design. So at the tabs here at the top, you have your designs. On this left bar, so the kind of left sidebar, there's templates. So you can open this up and you can select templates for different slide decks, Instagram posts, anything like that. Of course, for the graphical abstracts, it's more kind of like a slide size. You've got your elements. These are the most important parts. So there's categories of elements. So you have shapes, graphics, animations, photos. You can add all sorts of stuff. Charts are important. So I'll just go into this for a second, and I'll just put a few here. So you could use, let's say, this kind of circle shape. You can use that perhaps as like a little heading for something. Let's say study design. We could even, with this square at the top here, you can see Ask Canva. You can edit the square. You can change the shape. So here I can change it into kind of round corners. Also here at the top, I can do corner rounding, so I can give a percentage. So let's say 60%. So you can do a lot of modifications with simple shapes. Colors, of course. If you want a specific color, you can add a color with the hex code. So if you know the exact color you want. So yeah, there's just a huge amount of flexibility here with very simple things. You can add a line to it. So you can have an outline, which can be different weights. So this is 4, I could do 20, it would be a very thick line. But again, very, very simple. You'll see as I move this around, you get these prompts. So here I'm bang in the middle of the design. Yeah. So that's kind of, I suppose, some shapes and how you work with them. If I go back in here on the left-hand side to elements, let's go out of shapes. There's graphics. So this is where you can get these kind of icons. So here you can see generate. So there is an AI function here where you can generate something. But let's say I want to describe the population of my study. So if I just type population, let's see what comes up. You can see these sort of icons are quite good for that. So if I click this one, this could be a very useful icon for describing the population. You can see up here, I have one university students. So there's that kind of that cap that gives that away. But yeah, so you can kind of figure out what icon works best. Here again, you can change the color, pink, blue. Again, you can put a box around it. Doesn't look too great for that sort of one. But there's just a massive amount of flexibility. Also positioning wise, so let's say with this one, if I want to move this down, you can see it's above this one. So what I can do here is if I add a line, I can kind of make it into a little box, the two together. So it kind of starts to look a little bit more like up here. So I can try and kind of somewhat recreate that, putting these here together. And again, you can kind of center this to make sure that it's nice and centered. If you want to then group these things, you can highlight the two of them. You can group them together. So if I want to move these now, they're grouped together. So that's a nice function. If you want to ungroup them, you can ungroup them again, and then you can move them around. So huge amount of flexibility. Again, very simple to create these sort of things. I'll go back into elements just to show you more. As we've looked at a shape, some graphics, there's animations. Charts is probably a good one to look at. So if you wanted to add a bar chart, you can see here, it is giving me headings. So this is just like a template. So I can change these headings, maybe diet types or different things, or I can just get rid of them entirely if you don't want any headings. And here, your numbers. So again, if you've data that is, I don't know, 78 something, 60 something, 45 something, 30, I don't know, grams of food intake per day, let's say. So yeah, let's do that actually. So let's say fruits is 78 grams a day for people. Vegetables is 60. Meat, let's say 45 grams. And then let's say tubers or something is 30 grams. So you can see how you can start to show your data. If this was a study where you're looking at population intakes, that's a very simple way to show it with bar charts. If you click your design, I've clicked, sorry, the graph. If you hit edit, that's where it brings you into this tab. So you can change, again, headings. You can customize, you can add a legend. So if there is a heading, so let's say food groups, that should come up now in a legend, hopefully. No. Okay, there is a way to do that. Amounts eaten. And then what you can do as well is you can change the axes. So for your y-axis, for example, you might want to make the maximum 100 to space it out a bit more. Or maybe you want to bring it down to 80 and space it a little bit less. You can add titles. So food group intakes, say grams per day. And then again, this legend, yeah, we have a legend now for what these bars are. So if I wanted to take out grams per day here, we'll have it in the legend, although I don't think that looks very nice. So I'll put that back in. But yeah, so this is just, again, a very simple example of visualization. If I go back in here to elements, again, this is pretty much where you're going to find most of the important things. If we look at tables, you can also add tables. So this can be useful for certain data as well. Maybe you want to show the proportions of demographics. So let's say demographics of your population, let's say. You could have sex here, ethnicity perhaps, income, and then you could fill these out with whatever headings you want. So let's say males, we could have percentage. Etc. So again, really easy to move these around. If you want to make it smaller, you can change the font size by just going up to the top bar here. So you can see I have it at 18. So I would recommend probably for the graphical abstract to have that as a minimum. But we could go larger. You can also change the color. So if you want to highlight, let's say, this top part of the table, you can highlight it like so. So again, just if perhaps a lot of you have used this software before, but if you haven't, if you're used to using PowerPoint or whatever, you can see that this is just a little bit easier. It's a little bit quicker to make these changes and more flexible. So again, yeah, I like it. You see these kind of these little layout kind of things that pop up. It gives you a nice insight into where your icons are in the design, which helps with consistency and with making things look neat and professional. So yeah, that's just a few elements. Other things available to you. I actually haven't, funny enough, I haven't used this generate. So maybe we'll give that a go and see what that looks like. So let's say generate line graph that shows as age goes up. So risk of death, which is a sad statistic, but it's true. Okay. So let's see how this works. Okay. So we can definitely see the graph. Not too happy about the text. It's not very good. So this is where maybe there's a bit of work for some of these tools. So you could create that very easily with a line graph yourself and manipulate it the way you want. But yeah, you can see that maybe there is a way to make these photos or charts or whatever a little bit better than my prompt there. But yeah, so there's a huge amount of flexibility with this tool. As I mentioned before, in this particular graphical abstract, this image here was not made in Canva. So that was an image that I just uploaded. So there is that function as well. So if we go here to uploads on the left-hand side of the taskbar, there's all sorts of things, that images from your computer that you can just upload. So for example, this one here is a graphic. It looks a little bit blurry there. But this is a graphic of the planetary health diet and the food group composition that I made in OR. But you could probably create that in some capacity in Canva. But I happen to do that in OR because I think when it's very detailed at times, it's a little bit easier in other softwares. But yeah, you can just then upload that image and fit it into your design. Other tools, there's drawing tools here you can use as well. Sticky notes. So that's probably not as important for a graphical abstract, but for other things you may use this software for. Although perhaps you could incorporate that into a graphical abstract. Again, thinking creatively here. If you were working with, let's say you're working with school students, so high school or whatever, maybe there's a way to incorporate a sticky note element or something like that that gives that kind of school feel, or even university students. So definitely get creative with it. And yeah, and this is the pro version of the software. So some of the things I'm showing here may not be available on the free version, but I think the majority are. But sometimes there's elements. If I, let's say, go to graphics, let me see, graphics, you see this kind of crown. So the crown, I think, is included if you have the pro version. So this one's free, that's not free. This one's free, that one's not free. So there are some icons that won't be available to you in the free version. But as I mentioned, I think there's enough that you would be able to create something pretty aesthetic, pretty visually appealing without having to purchase that pro membership. Other things then, text. So obviously your text boxes, very simple. They can be integrated into your shapes. So for example, let's say I am saying this is a university population. I might give that bold to make it look a little bit nicer. I might make this a bit smaller. I might change the color here to black. You can kind of align these together. And then again, you can group these together. So if you want to move them together, instead of having to move them by themselves, you can move them together. Yeah, so that's hopefully helps seeing this. There's a huge amount of flexibility. You can add, obviously, you can change the background color of your design. So if I wanted to create it kind of this kind of light blue, pink, darker blue, green, whatever you want, and then you can start to kind of use that as maybe a bit of a main background. You can crowd it out with some of this. So you can just see the flexibility with it. But hopefully you're following what I'm doing here. It's not very complex. Yeah, let's get rid of that pink. It's kind of distracting me at this point. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe at this point, if there's any questions that people have around some of what I've just shown, I can answer them. Or if there's things you want me to try.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Patrick. It's as if you already through some of the chat, like some questions were related to what you were doing. Thank you once again for the demonstration. I must say this is the tip of the iceberg. So tomorrow we're going to go deeper. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to come tomorrow. We'll have breakout session and we will go hands-on to do this. So I think someone asked, is it possible to the abstracts you generate on Canva, can you convert it to PowerPoint or PDF?
Yeah. So
Oh,
once you are, let's say, if I want to convert this one, if
okay.
you go to the right top corner, go to share, you
Okay.
can download it as many different files. So
Oh, perfect.
image files, PDF. If you've created something video format, you can also do that. You can do PowerPoint here, GIFs as well. Like you can do a lot. And these are all again included with the free. This one
Okay.
SVG, so that's for the pro, and that's more
Oh,
for more advanced web design images. So yeah, definitely. And it would be it wouldn't be great if you couldn't do that, because I guess you wouldn't be able to transfer it across different softwares and that sort of stuff. So good question though, because sometimes you wouldn't think about doing maybe a
yeah.
PowerPoint presentation in Canva, let's say, and then actually presenting it on PowerPoint. You can present on Canva, but I think PowerPoint's, I like the animations on PowerPoint, how you can kind of click through it. I think it's a little
Okay.
bit more intuitive to actually deliver it through PowerPoint, but you can create the design on Canva for sure for presentation as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know what part this person is talking about. But the person was referring to an animation you used that made the write-up drop. I am trying to wrap myself at what point where you used it, but I think the person was referring to a certain animation you
Okay,
used while you were.
not sure. Maybe if they can maybe
Okay,
explain
so
that a
if
little
you
bit
ask
more.
the question, can you like reiterate on which animation you're referring to or which like drop you were referring to so that he can answer? I think you already answered that some elements are free on the free version of Canva and some are not free. Uh, okay, I think I have one last
But
question just before you go.
there's one, I think, how to create the background color design. So that's if you
Yeah,
just click this the white background, and if
okay,
you just go to the top, there's a background color here, so you can kind of select any color you like for that. So it's pretty easy.
okay.
Yeah, and if you want to get rid of that, so let's say you have it here, you can just delete. So delete on your keyboard, or you can go into the colors and just select no color. I think you can do as well. So you can go to white. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Patrick, for the wonderful presentation, for the demo. It's really, really interesting. But at this point, I would try to wrap up the webinar and all. But I want to encourage everyone. Tomorrow is going to be more practical. We'll be using Canva tomorrow. So I want to encourage everyone to come tomorrow. Come early. The goal is to actually design a graphical abstract to work in groups. So feel free to come tomorrow. So in preparation for tomorrow, would encourage everyone to create like a free Canva account. So we have all of those taken care of and all. So one of the NDDI team will drop the link where you could drop it. I think it's www.canva.com, but someone's going to drop the link in the chat just in case you don't know. So kindly create a free account tomorrow so that when we're working on it, that part has been taken care of tomorrow in preparation for tomorrow.
I might just
So at this, okay,
anyway, I might just introduce that for a minute if that's okay, that design task,
sure.
just to
Thank you
make it
so much.
easier.
I don't
Okay.
mind. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, tomorrow you're gonna have the opportunity to amend one of my previous ones, which I don't like very much. So you'll be given a link to this. it depends on how the facilitators want to run the session, whether they want everyone to work on it at the same time or one person nominate and people can input in their groups. That's, I suppose, down to whoever runs it. But for this graphical abstract, so there's also the written abstract you'll have access to. So trying to see how you could improve upon this. I've left a template here where you can, change all this sort of stuff. So you can either use kind of the design that's already there and amend it, or you can just have a blank, page and start fresh. It's down to whatever you prefer. The facilitators will have different guiding questions and, maybe some things to think about. So just to prompt you to get working and to see how you can work on different aspects. And then I suppose at the end, hopefully there'll be something there that will be a little bit clearer than this in terms of explaining this written abstract. But yeah, that's the design task for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patrick. So if you're interested, I think he has dropped like I'm thinking, or I have in my mind that everyone's thinking, oh, how is it going to look like tomorrow? So if you really want to see how it's going to look like tomorrow, kindly, I want to encourage you to join. And if you know someone that this would be useful for, kindly share the link with the person. The person can also join tomorrow. We'll be glad to accommodate everyone. So on behalf of NDDI Africa, I want to say thank you so much to Patrick for joining us today and for the wonderful presentation. I would also like to thank everyone that is here. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for staying to the end. But we want you back here tomorrow. So kindly join tomorrow. We'll call one time. It's the same time, 7 p.m. West African time. So let's try to come early so we can maximize the time. And I'm sure you get value for your time. I know you already got value today. You get much more value tomorrow. So at this point, I would bring the webinar to a close. Yes, I will bring it. If you want to watch, this is going to be on YouTube. If you feel you want to go back to it, go to NDDI Africa on YouTube. Sorry, let me see if I can just share our social media handles just so you can see. Yes, you can connect with us on this. Sorry. Yeah, you can connect with us on these social media handles, and you can see NDDI_Africa on YouTube if you want to watch this webinar again. Thank you so much. With this, we'll come to the end of the webinar. Thank you for joining and have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you.